Okay, thank you, Adrian. Welcome to our monthly Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group meeting. I think we have just got one. Actually, Adrian, any apologies for the meeting this evening?
Harold Goodwin has sent apologies.
Great. So Harold, I think, is on holiday, although he has been beavering away. I've received several emails from him over the last day or two, which is great. Anthony, I hope may join us at some point during the meeting. We have, let me just share the agenda with you. We have a relatively straightforward agenda this evening. Sorry, let me do that again. I wasn't quite sure if you were seeing the right thing. Can you see the agenda?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. The focus for this evening really is on the upcoming exhibition, and thanks everyone for, I think actually everyone on this call has provided their availability for the meeting. So sorry to be pushy on that, but I was just keen that we get it sorted out really, so then we can relax and kind of forget about it for a week or so. So that's really the focus for this evening. I suppose the first item is any declaration of interests for any of the items on the agenda.
No.
Declarations.
Nope. Good.
Okay, right, let me stop sharing and I'll share the minutes of the last meeting with us so we can very quickly go through them.
Printed.
So this is our last meeting of Monday, the 21st of June. I don't know if it's just me, but every time I look at old minutes, it just seems like it's such a long time ago.
Yes.
More than a month. I think we've actually done a lot more in the past month, which obviously isn't reflected in the minutes. But obviously we elected chair and vice chair for the coming year. We also renewed our terms of reference, approved the minutes. We did have a briefing to the town council. Minute 6, that was an action of mine, but actually it was an action that was picked up by Councillor Barker. So Chris had a discussion this month, in fact last week, with Hannah Barter around protecting amenity spaces, and so that has been actioned. Summer exhibition we're going to talk about this evening. We obviously established the dates. I provided a short bit on site allocation. I'll talk about that this evening. Updating local green spaces. I think Chris will say a few words about that. Or sorry, actually, Adrian will, in the context of the exhibition. And equally, I think Chris will say a few words this evening in terms of policies in the context of the exhibition. Any observations, questions? Anything else arising from the minutes?
It was just the action, the landowners' agents to be updated on their submissions.
Okay, so that was with respect to site allocation. So I can talk about that now, actually. One of the topics of conversation we had with Hannah Barter last week was around what we should and shouldn't do in the exhibition. And one of those discussions was around site allocation. So just as a reminder, really, and for the record, we've gone through 2 processes, obviously the ACOM process to identify sort of suitability and availability. And then secondly, we had our own process where we then re-evaluated the sites according to our own criteria. So we've identified a list of sites that we think may be suitable for allocation. What we're not, and this is on Hannah's advice, is we're not actually going to consider any list final until after the exhibition. So the exhibition will be looking at basically, these are definite reds. These are a bunch of sites from which we will probably, and the word probably is important, probably draw the allocations. So until post exhibition, we'll then have a 3-week consultation period. And after that consultation period, will then update the landlords and agents in their submission. So in other words, it's not the right time to do it because we need to make sure we've done the proper consultation before we can consider the sites either allocated or not allocated. Is that okay, Adrian?
Yeah.
Great.
Just
There was an item on there, John.
one thing on the minutes.
Go on.
Carry on, Jeff.
There was an item on there with me actioning to talk to Hannah about this, I think it was towards the end.
Yeah.
I spoke to Harold about that as well, and he sent me a load of information. And I'm making sure that I've got that in my mind before I talk to Hannah. So I've still got that one to do, John.
Yeah, great. And actually, it's a very important one, Jeff, but not like super duper urgent, because that's really about how we draft the overall plan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Chris?
Just one thing about this last item, the SBC planners. Did we have a meeting on Friday, or did I miss a meeting on Friday, or have we got one coming up? I can't remember.
Yeah, we had a meeting on Friday. It was attended by Jeff, Adrian, and I. So just the three of us on that meeting. I presume everyone was invited to it. I don't know. I presume that was the case, but it was a useful meeting. So I'm just reading the minute. Okay, so essentially, in terms of timing of their, and I don't know what the right term is, their reading of the draft plan and feeding back on the draft plan. So it's not an inspection, it's not a formal consultation, but their evaluation of the plan. The ask from Jill is that we don't do that before September, which realistically I think fits in with our timetable anyway, given the summer, etc. I don't know if that is helpful, Chris.
Yeah, no, it's really helpful. So they, is it a regulation 14 that they undertake? Yeah. Is that what she's saying? Wait till September.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and that's mainly due just to summer holidays, annual leave, etc.
Yeah, administrative.
Anything else?
Administrative availability.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's probably the case for us as well. Actually, I think most of us are taking some time off over the coming weeks. I think that's fair. Okay, there's no more comments. Can I ask or propose that we approve the minutes of the meeting?
Yeah,
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Jeff and
All vote.
approved, I think, by everyone. Thank you. Okay.
Apologies for missing the meeting, Adrian. If they come in again, unfortunately, I've got 3 or 4 calendars at the moment, and I'm not doing a very good job of reconciling them. So my apologies for missing the SOL meeting on Friday.
So, Chris, it's interesting because I'm seeing another bit of your house this evening. You're obviously not at your desk.
Is that his mother-in-law?
No.
No, I'm in my mother-in-law's house.
All right.
Which the really amazing thing is one of those beams back there has got the age carved into it, which is 1560 something.
Wow.
And that's the age it was put on a ship it was originally built in, and it was taken off a ship. So that tree would have probably been growing, about 900 years ago, which is just amazing.
Oh no, yeah.
What a thought. And talking about upcycling, right? Taking it off a ship and stick it in your house. Very nice.
Yeah.
So we've got perfect audio from you, but there's a bit of a lag in the pictures, but that's fine.
Audio, okay.
No, the audio is perfect. Okay, so back on to the exhibition then. What I thought we could do, if it's okay with everyone else, is just really go through what we're planning to do in that exhibition. And again, just for the record, really, just to describe what's happened over the last few weeks. I think it was last week we had, yes, was it last week or the week before? We had a one evening meeting, and we divvied up a number of activities in terms of preparing boards for that meeting. So the deadline for the content was today, and Claire and Adrian are very helpfully pulling together all the various bits of information we've sent to them. So thank you, Adrian, and please pass the thanks on to Claire. We really appreciate her help with this. And everyone met the deadline. So again, thanks everyone for sending their information in. I'll let individuals talk about the feedback from Hannah Barter and public disclosures. I think I've kind of described a bit on housing allocation, how we approach that, but I'll touch on it briefly again, just to be clear as we go through it. But if there's no kind of, if everyone's happy with this approach, Jeff, can I just hand to you just to tell us briefly what you've done in way of introduction?
Very briefly, I'm asking the question in the same way I think that Chris and others have done as well, is to say why new housing in Faversham, highlighting in a couple of lines the Queen's speech and government's intentions, what that means for planning authorities and the local plan, then going on why a neighbourhood plan. And I know I keep going on about this, but I think with the accusations some are making that there hasn't been adequate public consultation, it was the community in the form of the Future Forum that actually asked the town council to begin this journey. And I think that's not a point that we want to lose, because we did ask that question, and I stood up at the public meeting in 2019 at the annual meeting and asked Alison whether the town council would consider it in the West's history. And so, and setting out what we talked about last time, looking to protect, use the neighbourhood plan to protect as much as we can the town, and create opportunities that we can for future generations. And the hope that that complements the work, John, that you've done on housing, Chris, and the site allocations. So it sets the scene for other bits to follow. That's me, John.
Thanks.
Brilliant.
And I think, Adrian, that was, I presume you guys have been working on it today, yourself and Claire, but that you've got all of that and everything you need from Jeff?
Yeah, we've got his text. Claire's in tomorrow, so she's dedicating tomorrow to do it, and she's quite confident she can do it in a day. So no, we haven't been working on it today.
Adrian, if she needs to call me about any bits of it.
It was whether there was any images, that's all. But I think I'm going to just try and do a ward map, possibly, just to go with it, just to, you know.
I think a map of the area, a map of the parish area, I think would be useful. Yeah. And I think we've got that readily available, haven't we? We've got the map of the neighbourhood plan area that's readily
we've got that
available.
actually. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So we're not reinventing the wheel. And
No.
then I hope mine leads into the rest of the pieces that you've all drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen it and I can testify it's very good. So
thanks, John. Try to portray a storyline.
Yeah.
Not just doing it for the sake of it, but there's a reason behind it. And just while I'm on the air, there was a question came out from Adrian this afternoon and Chris about your chart, Chris, your timeline. I really think that's important to have that in. It was really simple, and I really think that puts it all into perspective of where we are en route.
Great. Okay, thanks, Jeff. Let me talk briefly
I'll
about
send that through.
the housing allocation. So essentially what I've done is provided a little bit of an introductory text around, it sounds similar to Jeff's, but it's not necessarily. It talks about what we are seeking to do within the neighbourhood plan, which is to allocate 200 houses as indicated within the draft Swell local plan. There's a little bit of text around actually why that's important and why it's a good thing. Not least because, you know, we do need some housing and we need some specific types of housing particularly, but also the fact that by developing a plan and allocating sites for housing, it protects the town from future speculative development. And I did a bit more digging into it. I think it's Regulation 14 of the NPPF, and what that says essentially, in the absence of a local plan or in the absence of a neighbourhood plan, the decision falls in favour of sustainable development. So in other words, if you don't have a plan saying where development can be, as long as that development is reasonable and isn't contradictory to the NPPF, the decision falls in favour of sustainable development. Once you've had a plan which shows that you've given ample consideration to your local needs, you know, you've appraised local sites, you've determined where the best places for development is, it will protect us in the future. And it's not watertight because nothing in life is, but it's the best we can do to protect us from future unplanned housing. So there's a bit on that. There's a section which describes the process we've been through, from call for sites to the 2 evaluation processes I've described. And then there is a map. I can share that map with you in a second. And there's also a site list, which I'll share with you now, just so you can see how it's shaping up. So this will be extracted and put onto boards. So what we've done is avoided marking the sites as green, amber, or red. So they're basically in 2 colors, amber or red. So red by its very nature is kind of places that have been excluded or taken off the list as potentials for development. So Queen Court Farmyard, Faversham Police Station, Provenor Mill, New Creek Road, which is actually the Standard Key, etc., etc. All the remaining ones that aren't red are marked as amber. What that means in practice, which is quite interesting, is if I can just move my sheet over so I can see the maths in it. In this, so we've got site reference, location description, site area, current use, estimated capacity, and potential use. I've simplified it. In the detail, it describes it in a lot more detail. But if I just tot these up, all the
220.
220. So what that means is we're saying that this is roughly the list, but it's not definitively the list. And that's the important thing. So if people come to the exhibition and said, have you decided on the final sites? We haven't decided on the final sites. We're expressing an opinion of the sites that we think are suitable, but we'll undergo a 3-week consultation on this. So what that means is there's some of these sites we could probably, or at least one of them, we could probably exclude. They're roughly, yeah.
Sorry if I'm slightly delayed, but the question is, do you intend to, should we have a key there that describes what is amber and what is red? What are the conditions that make something amber and something red?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Chris. I don't think I've done that, but I think we certainly should. Yeah, we can certainly include a key. I'm trying to think if it's included on the map. I think it might be included on the map, which I'll show you in a second, but absolutely we can't overstate it. And what I would say is these are largely reflective of what people told us, you know, i.e. they're predominantly, if not exclusively, brownfield sites or previously developed sites. There are all within the existing built up area, et cetera, et cetera. So they kind of align to what people have told us about. And like I say, like, this isn't the final list. Some of these could move. Some of them become red and some of them could become amber. So I'll give you a really good example of that. Is currently we have land at so Kiln Court, Osborne Court. I'm not quite sure yet whether it's available or not. I think I sent you a message today, Adrian. I don't know whether we actually ever heard from KCC.
No, I don't know if we actually wrote to them in the end,
Right.
because I think we were going to, and then it was the election, so we held off.
Yeah. But if that suddenly becomes available, it may be a suitable site because it's already developed. For instance, another one would be this one. Currently, it's marked as not available. Swell haven't officially told us yet whether it's available or not. Again, that could become available. And equally, some of the ones which are amber, if we get feedback or in the consultation, people have particular problems with it, equally, they could become red, essentially. Okay. I'll send everyone this list after
good.
meeting, so you can have a look at it. And last but not least, let me just share you a map so you can kind of see where this is going. This is an early draft, so it's not finalized, and it's worth saying that we have a volunteer working on this, which is much appreciated.
Adrian's husband.
Adrian's husband. Has been
Nathan.
Nathan's been very kindly volunteering and supporting us with this. So this is a work in progress, okay? So essentially, red sites, amber sites. These hatched sites are the strategic housing allocations. They're probably going to become red hatched rather than just grey hatched.
And John, I draw that distinction in my piece in the local plan aspect, qualifying what strategic sites are.
Yeah.
So we've got that in the storyline.
Great, great. There's a few sites here which are in cyan. Apparently, I would have called that blue, but apparently it's cyan. Some of these are outside our parish boundary, so they'll probably come out. This one's interesting. I think this one may be one that slips through the net. I think we need to go back and have a look. Which is half of it's in our parish, but it's the kind of field adjacent to the stone chapel. So we may need to just check that. It should be red. Just need to check it.
Yeah.
But you can see where we're going with this. That the biggest single site is this Osborne Kiln Court. So we just got to work out what's happening with that. But most of the other ones, you can see them. So actually, I hope that this kind of reassures people that within the neighbourhood plan, we're not going crazy. It's actually very measured and a very relatively modest number of sites that we're proposing. Okay. I think that's the site allocation proportion of the exhibition. I don't know if there's any questions. No. Great.
Good, John. Thank you.
Thank you. Adrian, could you just give us a brief update on LGS for the exhibition?
Well, it's for the exhibition, and also we're meant to be starting our consultation at the same time, aren't we, Chris? So I've done basically an introduction to local green spaces. And
Sorry. I'm going to start speaking only to say I'm really sorry that I'm delayed and I keep interrupting people. I really don't mean to. Sorry.
That's fine. So yeah, I've done basically an introduction to what local green spaces are for the local neighbourhood plan. And also because we did decide when we were out visiting them to do tree TPOs as well. So I've done that. And then I put on the briefs policy that Hannah's done for the amenity spaces that we're going to protect through policy rather than through allocation. I've done a map of the 8 sites that we are proposing to take forward as local green spaces, and then I've just done a photograph of most of them. So at the same time, we're going to do the consultation. So we did do them briefly after our site visits. Hannah Barter has given us some feedback, which I'm just typing up to them. And then I'm going to resend them to a few key people. And Chris Williams has actually volunteered to help us with that today, because quite a lot of it's the biodiversity. So it's the local knowledge and the biodiversity that really needs feeding into them. So I'm going to circulate those, and then hopefully we'll still manage to start our consultation at the end of this week. But if I'm away next week, so if it's delayed, and it's delayed, I'm afraid, but I will try my best to start that.
I think, given Adrian, that we need to do a 3-week consultation regarding the site allocation. It still means that even if it's delayed and they both run in parallel, we'll have all that done before the end of August, which means we could go to the, it could still go to Swale in September. So
okay, yeah, I mean, I will try, because it'd be good to get this one started, wouldn't it? But
yeah.
Okay, and I was going to say something else then, John, and you completely...
Yeah.
What I wondered was, do we need a form for feedback? How are we going to record feedbacks or comments at the exhibition? Not just on local green spaces, on everything, really.
Do you know, I think the Post-its we used last time are really effective. I think people don't like forms. If you recall, we got gazillion Post-its and not very many forms.
I agree.
Okay, that's easy. We've got Post-its.
Post-its.
Nice and spontaneous, and people can just scribble.
I think also one of the bonuses of the posters is that we have photos where it looks like lots of people have really contributed to the thing. It's like a visual representation of contribution.
Yeah, good point.
Yep. Okay, that's easy.
Right.
And I think the LGS one's great because it's very visual. With photographs and stuff, it looks really nice, and it's a real positive story, I think. Super. Right.
There are a couple of them, of course, are development sites potentially as well.
Yeah.
Question, John, have we got the text on the views and the pictures on the views?
I can't talk about the text, but I did see an email today from, so essentially Harold managed to speak with some members of the camera club who kindly agreed to take photographs for us. The photographs have now been professionally printed, and they're going to be delivered to the town hall this Thursday.
Okay.
I'm sure Harold will deliver the text.
Yeah.
We've got his text, which is sort of more the wish list, isn't it? Rather than, I haven't seen any text to go with the views. He sent the heading.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen any text.
Interestingly, does that not come with the heritage one that I've put in my section?
I was reading that today, Chris, because I think you call out two buildings, don't you? Is it St Mary's and Davington, Priory, I think?
Yeah. That's what's in the policy today.
Yeah.
But actually, there are probably 4 or 5 others that we could probably add into there, and that we, you know, it's a good point of consultation, isn't it? You know, what other views do we need to protect? What sites and, you know, heritage and buildings do we need to gather views from and protect?
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, when's Harold's back this week, isn't he?
I don't know when he's back.
Don't know.
But I mean, it's all going to the printers, isn't it? Wednesday first thing. So
I don't mind just literally writing a few sentences as you described, Chris. You know, to sort of important buildings in town, to important structures. You know, we think we should maintain views of. You know, what are we missing?
It's just putting the photographs into context in a couple of sentences, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why they're there.
Yeah. Yes. I think the way views will be included and folded into the plan, we won't have a chapter on views. It will essentially be embedded within either the policies or actually probably more important, the site-specific policies. And I'll give you an example of that. So for instance, with Ordnance Wharf, if you're standing on the east of the basin, in sort of Morrison's side of the basin or the Shepherd Neame side of the basin, if you look across there, you can see Davington Priory. So for Ordnance Wharf, it will be important that the policy states that it should be limited height so it doesn't obscure views of that. So I think they'll be embedded in that sense into the policy. But just, to give everyone a warning, Hannah Barter did indicate that getting views in the neighbourhood plan is quite challenging. But
we're declaring an intent.
Correct.
It's a bit like the two sections of the plan, isn't it? What we can legally do within planning criteria and regulation, and what we want to try and do as aspirational and our vision of the way we'd like to complement the town with the development is going forward.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. The intention is there to include them. That was actually actually, just very briefly, Adrian did mention a document Harold sent through today. It isn't on the agenda, but it was for the exhibition. And what Harold has done is captured a list of issues which have arisen during the development of the neighbourhood plan, which aren't neighbourhood plan issues in the sense they can't be addressed in neighbourhood plan, yet they're important issues.
And that fits in with that task that I've got to do in talking to Hannah, isn't it? Hannah Barter.
Yeah.
To put that into context so that we don't lose track of what our rationale is and the background behind the policies that have been developed.
Yeah. I don't know if Harold just sent that to you and I, Adrian, or everyone was in copy, but I can certainly circulate it to everyone.
I haven't seen it.
Me and you, John.
I'd like to see it.
Okay. Again, I'll circulate that along with that housing list or a site list after the call. And I would suggest if you do have comments on it or things you want to add, probably worth doing it today, tonight, or tomorrow, so Adrian can get it in. Like this is a work in progress exhibition. It's not definitive. If it changes after, it's fine.
Claire's going to start work on her 8 o'clock when she gets here. So
great. And last but not least, Chris, you've pulled some stuff together on policies for the exhibition.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not got any graphics in it. It's incredibly dry. But I will, for those people who haven't seen it, I'll share my screen quickly, and I'll just canter through it. I need to make that small. So a timeline, which is probably not necessarily needed for this particular section, but it's probably useful for the wider exhibition. It would be great because I think broadly we're here, and we could say we're here. Yeah. And we could really, this is about telling people that we've engaged and being able to repeat that at the independent examination, really, and then suggesting that there's a public consultation, independent examination, referendum. It's a simplified process that doesn't cover any of the regulation, but it just gives a sense of where we are. The next slide is really to kind of introduce people to neighbourhood plan policies, and following a theme of we've engaged you, and as a consequence of engaging you, we've developed 16 policies, which is good. We said we'd draw out 3 of them, and typically they all follow the same broad style, which is, and actually I probably want to change this. I don't know if it's too late, Adrian, but I think we need to say draft policy rather than policy in each of them. But it's actually the wording of the policy as it stands today, and then typically, I mean, I've drawn these from the exhibitions or the survey, just some verbatims of what people said, how broadly that translated into objectives for the policy and then ultimately the policy, and have done that for the town centre, the historic buildings and places, and the same for Faversham Creek. And that's broadly it. It's a bit dry, but it is what it is. And I think it shows the kind of level of detail we've gone and really that process of engagement through to definition, through to policy creation. And my hope is that we'll actually have draft neighbourhood plans there for people to pick up if they want, or we'll point them to somewhere where they can read it online.
Great.
Any thoughts, questions, rotten fruit?
That looks good. Good, Chris. It is, you know, it's a list of policies, right? It's difficult to illustrate.
It is pretty dry.
But no, it's good. It's important stuff. That, I know Adrian's just left the building, as it were. One of the things you just made me think, Chris, would be worth doing is we've got things like the the design codes. We've got things like the ACOM site assessments, which is like a 70-page document. You know, it's probably we've even got the thing from the Duchy. You know, their characterization study. If you recall, last time in the exhibition, we had some materials printed out, set them on a table, and people can pick up and leaf through them. Or probably would be worthwhile doing some of those as well. I'll pick that up with Adrian.
Very comfortable with that. I don't know what the COVID rules are, whether we can have a document that everyone can touch and retouch and transmit various lurgies, or we just have, you know, multiple copies of something they can pick up and take away. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll pretend I didn't say that, and we can just.
Well, breaks are off, Chris. Do whatever you want now. Free for all.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Anarchy in the UK. The other thing we could do, Adrian, we were just discussing the fact that we've got some quite interesting documents that people, it's probably worthwhile bringing people's attention. The other thing we could do is, so for instance, like the design codes, for instance, maybe we could have a copy, and I don't think it's complicated, but it's always easy to say it's not when you're asking someone else to do it. They're all on the web, right? They're all on our website. I wonder whether we could just, I think you can put a URL into a QR generator and just generate little QR codes.
Yeah.
Free, so people could pick them up if they wanted to. Can you do that?
And we should, for those that aren't
Brooke's
able to use that technology.
Yeah. We can ask Brooke. She's away till Wednesday, but I think that's her expertise.
Well, one of the good
We could just print those after the fact, right?
Yeah.
We could just print those after the fact on A4 and put them up.
Yeah.
And we probably should take postal addresses and details of those that don't have technology that we can send things to if they really want. Yeah. And for all three that choose that method, we can put them in the post.
Yeah.
I know we've spoken to all the developers in that southeast section that have been identified as strategic sites, but that characterization study, John, that you just referred to, that's incredibly comprehensive. To think that a prospective developer has gone into that detail about caring for our heritage and our environment and taken into context all the various aspects really complements what we've been trying to do.
Absolutely, we should promote it. Okay, I think we're done. Actually, I think we've covered everything which is on the agenda. Like I said, quite a brief meeting this evening, but everyone's busy preparing for this exhibition. And I think, as per Chris's timeline, you know, bearing in mind the past 18 months we've been through as a country, I think to do 3 surveys and this is our 3rd exhibition is pretty good going.
Brilliant.
Really impressive, really impressive.
Yes.
Okay, and thanks Adrian in advance, because I know you're going to be busy on it this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any updates you want to send, just send them over to Claire and myself for the morning.
Okay, super. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks
we'll
Good to see everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Everyone, thank you.
you.